Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert. I'm Joe Taylor. This morning, another in the ongoing series of programs presented by the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning. The program, through the Northwest Institute of Research, oversees a grant from the Office of Child Development and Early Learning at the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and the Department of Education. The goal of the program is to improve the outcomes for young children as they prepare for school. John Poza from the Pennsylvania Key is the host of the program, and he's here with us throughout the series. And who's here with us this morning, John?
Good morning, Joe. This morning we have Carla Johnson and Peggy Conn from the Lincoln Elementary School in the Erie City School District. Carla Johnson is the principal of the school, and Peggy Conn is the early childhood coach with the preschool programs with the school. And they are going to discuss their Community Innovation Zone project that they're partnering with Mercyhurst University on. So welcome to the program, Carla and Peggy.
Thank you, John. This is Peggy.
Yes. Hi, Peggy. Tell us a little bit about, I know that a lot of the work that you're doing, tell us basically about Lincoln Elementary School being kind of the focus of your project initially, and your diverse student population and the fact that you have preschool and pre-K counts. And tell us a little bit about the school itself and then how the project is working.
Sure. Well, Lincoln Elementary School is a neighborhood school. All of our families are able to walk to the school, and it's one of the reasons why we chose Lincoln to be part of the Community Innovation Zone grant. Carla has been a great advocate for young children and their families. When we first put pre-K counts into her building, she embraced the program and just was wonderful with the staff and the families that were in the building. So as we started looking at the transition from pre-K 3-year-olds into 4-year-old programs in kindergarten and beyond, Carla was so on board with what our vision was that she just said, let's do this here at Lincoln. And we have just decided that this would be the perfect place. So families are getting very involved in what we're doing, excited to see their children learning through play and providing materials to allow our teachers in the upper grades to really develop the social and emotional skills that are needed for them to be successful and on grade level reading by 3rd grade.
Yeah, and the beauty of the project is that you are going to be tracking some very, very excellent data, utilizing obviously the kindergarten entry inventory as well. And part of what you're looking at is the ability to assess practices in your preschool as a means for guiding future classroom instruction, even through all the early elementary grades. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. We had focused on the kindergarten entry inventory this year, working closely with our pre-K teachers and our kindergarten teachers. And we collected the data from the kindergarten entry inventory and found some areas that we thought we really needed to focus on a little bit more with our children who were having high-quality preschool instruction. And we now have done an informal assessment or screening at the end of the year, looking at some of the social and emotional data from the kindergarten entry inventory and seeing how implementing some play and some really intentional instruction with social and emotional skills, which may have been a deficit for a lot of children, how did that impact our kindergarten children once they've already been in school? So we're really gathering some great data. We've seen our pre-K children coming in just a little bit more ready for instruction at the kindergarten level than those children who did not have quality early child care. And it really has been able to help the teachers drive their instruction and put a little emphasis in areas that perhaps we didn't feel the need to do before, but really focusing on these areas now. Our kindergarten teachers are absolutely thrilled, and they're seeing some huge successful results from this.
This kind of goes in line with something that I've always wondered about. A child may have gone through a quality preschool experience through a program like Pre-K Counts. What is done once in elementary school to ensure that the child's early teachers are aware of the child's preschool learning experience and there is a seamless transition for the child from preschool to grade school?
Well, that's an interesting question for us. This is kind of how we got involved in the Community Innovation Zone grant. When we were working on our Continuous Quality Improvement Plan, our CQI, we decided that we really wanted to focus on transition. And we gathered a group of kindergarten teachers and a group of pre-K teachers, and we took a real close look at the life of a pre-K teacher and the life of a kindergarten teacher and what did it look like for the children involved. And when we put those two windows together, our kindergarten teacher said, wait a minute, there's a big problem here because your children are spending great amount of time on intentional play, and our children are coming into the room, sitting in desks and we ask them to be quiet and answer questions with hands raised. How do we make that transition? And this kind of got us started on what are we going to do here. So we really started opening up those lines of communication between those pre-K teachers, not only in our buildings but in outside agencies, with our kindergarten teachers to try to make that transition seamless. And in doing so, that's where the Community Innovation Zone grant idea came to our minds, that we needed to do something to make sure that our early childhood teachers beyond pre-K were really implementing some intentional opportunities for children to develop socially and emotionally that really made that transition smooth and seamless, not only for children but for their families. And we're just seeing great success with this. And I think the doors of communication between the two entities have been opened up, where we are offering email addresses for early childhood centers into our buildings so that teachers can communicate firsthand knowledge about children as they're entering our schools. This is something that hadn't happened in the past. We have redeveloped our registration forms so that parents are able to indicate where their children had gone to the early learning programs. And as we are meeting with partners and agencies outside, we have developed a transition checklist, which gives us in-depth information about each child coming into our school and contact information for the facility that they're coming from. So it's really starting to develop into a real open line of communication for everybody.
That's wonderful. I wanted to ask Carla, being the principal, a question regarding, now that we know, especially with this social, emotional area that we're looking at and the change going from preschool to kindergarten, what are some of the things that you possibly are maybe looking at in terms of incorporating and making that transition smoother, and that so that children are more adapted once they enter kindergarten with those skills?
So Carla would love to answer this question. I have to tell you that Carla has been a big advocate about the play that she sees in kindergarten. So I'm going to pass the phone over to Carla and let you reiterate that question to her. But this is probably her favorite part about walking into a pre-K classroom.
Hello.
Yes, Carla.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit? I don't know if you heard my previous question, but we talked about the social-emotional skills of preschoolers and that transition into kindergarten. What are some of the things as the elementary principal that you may be looking at based on maybe the data collection and what you're seeing through the Community Innovation Zone project, areas that you may be tweaking a little bit to make it a smoother transition in that area for children once they enter kindergarten?
I'm glad you asked that question because I'm having a conversation with parents around sending their kids to preschool because they want to hold on to the child and keep the kid before they send the child to preschool. They want the kid to go straight to kindergarten because they don't want to let go. And so I'm trying to explain to parents that preschool is such a learning environment with play, because they do things such as they'll have whipped cream on the tables, and then they have to write the letters in the whipped cream, and things like that. And they do measuring with the sand or with waters or painting, all of the fun things they do through learning that parents don't understand, and they want the child to go straight to kindergarten. Well, straight to kindergarten is more academic. It's more work and structure as far as less play. And so because the transition, like Peggy said, is so far, preschool is so far from kindergarten, this transition with the SIDS grant, this program allows the preschool kid to have an easier transition with adding play to kindergarten, but structured play.
Right. Tell me about the relationship with the SIDS grant, the partnership that you have with Mercyhurst, and what their role is in the project.
I love our program with Mercyhurst because we started out with what's called Carpe Diem program with Mercyhurst.
It's almost
And
like a Marine Corps term, isn't it?
It
yeah,
is.
Yeah.
Carpe Diem, seize the day.
Yeah.
So we have our kindergarten, first and second graders work with the graduate assistants, the graduate teachers from Mercyhurst College as the teachers of the program.
Right.
And so we started with looking at the data, teaching the kids to work with reading and math and working with the kids. And we're also trying to put the seed in the kids' head, the importance of education and college. So just to have our regular kindergarten teachers, first grade and second grade teachers work with the graduate students from the university. We have the experience of working with young people, and they have the new, innovative, creative, wonderful things that kids work with and love. And so to put those two together, we have a fantastic program that we would invite anybody to come and watch.
I want to ask you a question. This is Joe Taylor. I'm here with John. Kind of the flip side of what we asked Peggy. How knowledgeable had been most of your elementary school teachers as to what's being done in preschool at the early learning level? How have they benefited from interacting with the preschool instructors?
In the beginning, we didn't have very much knowledge of what was going on in preschool because we thought that it was mostly just play but not structured play. And so after seeing what's going on in preschool, we have a better understanding here of what we need to do for incoming preschool kids into kindergarten. Because if kids normally go to daycare, or which, not to knock daycare, but it wasn't it was more play but not structured play for the incoming kids coming to kindergarten. And kindergarten was so academically structured that the transition was a problem for pre-K kids or daycare kids coming into kindergarten.
And then, as you just said, having this firsthand knowledge of it then arms you in a better way to explain this to the parents then.
Absolutely. And we have to, sometimes it's a struggle to get parents to come in and see the program because they are coddling their kid. But you learn social skills, you learn your alphabet, your colors, your letters, your numbers, and you can explain it, not just I know red or I know triangle or I know rhombus, but they can explain their thinking. So, I love the program.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that benefits Lincoln is the fact that they have not only pre-K counts classroom in the building, but they also have separate preschool classrooms for those children that are age 4 and age 3. So that transition piece being already in the elementary school, just from the standpoint of being in the same facility, and makes it so much easier, that smoother transition, I'm sure.
It does, and they don't have to re-enroll. We already have them in our system, the kid in our system, and they already know where the cafeteria is, the bathroom is, how to socially conduct themselves in the school environment. It's just a benefit for all.
Right. And I wanted to ask this question of either you or Peggy, because I've been to your school, and it's in a very it's a working class neighborhood. It sort of reminded me of the typical neighborhood schools from years ago, where many of the children and families can easily walk to the school. It's a historic building, and I really it kind of reminded me, not that I'm aging myself or it kind of reminded me of my own experience growing up, going to elementary school. And I think there's a lot of value in that when you are so much a part of the fabric of the neighborhood.
It is, and all the families, they know one another and they walk to school together.
Yes.
And we have a strong family relationship with everybody, and we teach kids that we are family, we take care of one another, we look out for one another, and the parents know one another. So it is a beautiful neighborhood family school environment.
Yeah. Peggy, I know maybe is a little bit more involved in this, but either one of you can comment. I know that.
Well, let me put her on.
Okay, sure.
Before you ask the question.
Oh, no problem.
Hi, John. It's Peggy.
Hi, Peggy. I wanted to ask you, I know we're getting ready to go into the second year of the Community Innovation Zone grant project there. But I know down the road, you want to be able to track the data from all of the various, from not only preschool, but track the children through first, second, and third. And you'll be going through this process as this grant continues and then beyond, correct?
That is correct.
And
We are in the process of bringing some other people in to help us collect the data and really aggregate that data, looking at every means that we can to track these children. So we're pulling out Dibble scores. We're looking at the kindergarten entry inventory. We're going to dig down deep into those PSSA scores, even from past children that maybe weren't part of the CIZ grant but had been in pre-K in our district before, trying to see where they are grade level-wise with reading in third grade, and then these children that we're really focusing this new instruction and this new development with play and socialization, and see what difference are we making here. So really tracking these kids year to year with different means and different data to really hope that we get a good handle on what we're doing and how successful it is and what more can we do.
Right. And of course, all part of this project is what we call the P3 continuum. So in other words, we're trying to get families, parents, school folks, what have you, all on board to know what the expectations are, even from prenatally, before a child even starts preschool, when they're infant toddlers, all the way through grade 3. So that the expectations are there. Everybody's sort of knows what the expectations are. And at your school at Lincoln, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you have the early elementary grades there, but then do the children then go on to a middle school at a different location?
Yes, they would go into a middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, at a different location. So they're here till 5th grade.
Right. All the more reason then obviously that, because you have a captive audience there, and you're working with these children, and you have that continuum taking place all within your same building. So it's just, I think it's just a remarkable thing what you're doing.
We're very excited about it, and getting our parents on board with it is even more exciting. We have an event coming up here very soon, really looking at family engagement and how we get the parents involved in the whole idea of the, like you said, prenatal to 3rd grade. I've been working with some of our teen mothers in the district trying to get that emphasis down even to those children who have not yet been born yet. So we're really seeing the importance of this, and everybody's kind of jumping on board with us.
Right, and I know we've mentioned, and this is also part of what you're doing. We've talked about the Early Learning GPS, which stands for Guiding Parents Smoothly. It's an application as well as an online service. It's free, and it allows parents to basically track developmental areas with their children to know how they're doing, and it gives them guidance on actually being parents, correct?
Right, absolutely. We're hoping that at the start of next year we're going to have a mini computer lab here at Lincoln where parents can actually come in and be introduced to that firsthand. We've had some minor time with the parents looking at that, giving them the information, letting them do that on their own, but we'd love to bring them in as a whole group and do it together and show them ways that they can keep some of those things. I know as a parent, having that photo album or the baby book, it was a really big thing when the child was birth to 6 months old and you kind of forgot about it, but having something online and electronic that you would have forever, our parents are kind of excited about that. We don't always have the technology in their homes to do that, so by providing that here at the school, at a building that they feel safe in, we think is really important, so we're hoping to implement more of that next year.
And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you of some of the preliminary data that you've been able to track in your first year of the project, and a lot of which already confirms the value of a child that's gone through preschool, and the impact and where you're showing them on the assessment areas that you've found so far through the inventory and other means. Can you maybe touch on that?
I certainly can. Well, the first thing we looked at this year was the kindergarten entry inventory. As we were gathering the data and having the conversations with our kindergarten teachers, they were very amazed at how well these children were doing on this initial inventory. And as we looked at those children, we thought this will be really neat to see what do their Dibble scores look like. And we're finding that so many of our children from quality programs are coming in at benchmark on the Dibbles. And that is something we hadn't seen in the past. Before pre-K counts was something popular in our community, we were seeing many children coming in without those basic foundational skills. Now that we can track these children from these early learning opportunities into our buildings, we're seeing them so much more prepared academically and socially and emotionally as well, and to have the assessment tools handy to us to be able to collect that data and show that data is even more beneficial to everybody, so that we can really drive our instruction and really touch base with families so that they see the importance of all of this as well.
And for our listeners, I know who may not be familiar with what DIBELS is, it's obviously an assessment tool that's used in most school districts. And
It's the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills.
Good. I'm glad, because I'm glad that you filled that in for me, because I would not have remembered.
I'm glad you asked that, because I was wondering what it was too.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And it talks about things like phonemic awareness, which is hearing sounds in words. It talks about alphabet knowledge and first sound fluency. So do you hear the first sound in a word? Not necessarily identifying the letter, but what sound do you hear? And when we were growing up, we know that nursery rhymes were something really big, but since technology has become so prevalent in our society, that's something we've gotten away from, and our children aren't hearing those rhyming sounds and the beginning sounds in words and ending sounds. So to really call that to their attention and put that back into their lives is really making their early reading skills so much easier for them to grasp, and we're seeing children coming and reading already in kindergarten coming from quality programs.
Absolutely. We're coming to the end of another academic year, but that doesn't mean things don't happen in the summertime. So what are some of the things that you encourage families and children to be involved with through the summer months?
Well, we actually are having a summer kindergarten readiness program, so this will be for children who may or may not have gone to a pre-K program, that they will be able to come into their home school for a 2-week session to kind of get those beginning skills ready for them so that they walk into something that's not a big surprise. We are also having extended pre-K, so for 2 weeks after the school year is over, our children who are in those programs are going to get kind of, a real quick bolt of what is kindergarten and really bump that curriculum up for them and give them a good taste of it. We've been in pre-K, but let's really knock that curriculum up to another notch and see how we do as we're looking at what do they need that first quarter of kindergarten. We will have children from outside of these programs, like I said, able to come into each of our 12 schools, and many of them will actually have 2 weeks with the kindergarten teacher that they will have the following year. So it's a great transition piece for them.
And what should the parents do if they want to register their child for the summer program?
Well, a prerequisite for this program is that you are registered for kindergarten. So when the children,
Right.
the families come in to register their child for kindergarten, they are given this information and they can sign up immediately at that time, or they can take some time to think about it, and after the registration is complete, they can contact us. So prerequisite, registered for kindergarten in that building. But the word has been out there for quite some time. We've sent some letters out. We've been hitting up the neighborhoods with what we call our blue coats, which are some neighborhood gentlemen that knock on the doors that know the families and bring the information right to them. There are some events going on with Erie Together, which is a foundation here in Erie that looks at the community working, striving, learning, thriving together, and they are pushing some of this information not only through our district, but some of the outside agencies that also will be having the summer kindergarten readiness program. So the word is getting out there. We have some events coming up, block-to-block parties, that will have this information as well.
Well, this is fantastic. I mean, so much going on at Lincoln Elementary and within the Erie City School District. I want to thank you both, Peggy Conn and Carla Johnson, for being on our program this morning. Wonderful information, wonderful things going on in the Erie City School District and particularly at Lincoln Elementary. So thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
And that's our program for today. We'll be back in 2 weeks at the same time. In the meantime, you can go online to learn more at papromiseforchildren.com. For John Posa and the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning, I'm Joe Taylor. Thank you for listening and have a great day.